Hey guys, I'm back. I have lived 75 hard for the past year, and today I'm going to share my results. I have realized after watching everyone's 75 hard for authors, that I've actually been living by those kind of standards for the last year, and I wanted to share my results. So this month, October, is the 1 year anniversary of this YouTube channel. Hey guys, I'm Nelly. Welcome to my channel. We're going to talk about everything writerly, authorly, and branding and marketing, because my day job is as a marketer. So really the main goals that I had for this past year were to exercise consistently, eat healthy, lose some weight, read every single day, write my first draft, post consistently on YouTube, read craft books, and to make a writer community. And I think that I checked all of those off the list, you guys. I had made a commitment to myself last year, and there was a whole bunch of different things that I wanted to achieve in the following year. Now, I want to preface this by saying that I'm not trying to be boastful, but at the same time, I do want to celebrate my achievements. So I think it was I'm sure Esme said something about this. I can't remember what her handle is, but I'll put it down below. She is an author from the UK, and she worked really freaking hard to get where she is. I mean, she was working part-time in a cinema, ended up all that hard work that she put into her book. She was in an 8-way auction and is, in the process of publishing her second book right now. And she had mentioned this, and I think it's partly a cultural thing. I noticed it more growing up in the UK, and Esme's from the UK as well, that there's this kind of almost like cultural thing where if you are trying too hard, or if you're doing more than like the bare minimal, if you want more for yourself, it's almost kind of seen as like boastful, or like, who do they think they are kind of thing. You're met with like an eye roll, a bit of sarcastic type humor. Like, aiming big and trying to make something of yourself isn't really regarded in the same way as it is in America. And I'm not saying everyone's like that in the UK. Of course, there are exceptions, but growing up, there was generally that kind of feeling of like anything above self-depreciation was kind of, you were just boastful and bragging, So it does feel like I'm going against the grain by celebrating these wins that I've had, but you know what? I worked hard for them, and I'm going to own them, and I'm acknowledge the work that I put in. So all that to say, let's get into the video. One of the things that I really wanted to achieve in this past year was to lose some weight. Now, nothing against the weight that I was before, except for the fact that I was having some health issues, joint pain and stuff. Your girl ain't getting any younger. And I really just didn't want to feel old, I think was more the motivation for me than anything. I was starting to feel like, oh, my knee hurts, my hip hurts, I'm not physically able to do, XYZ. So I completely changed my diet. If you've heard of an app called Yuka, started using that. Certainly over here in America, there's a lot of bad stuff in the food. I can't even explain to you if you're not from America. They just put stuff in for no reason. If you buy a packet of like oven fries in the UK, it's, maybe 3 ingredients: potato, salt, and maybe some sort of starch powder, like cornstarch or something on the outside just to make them crispy. In the UK, that's normal. In the US, you try and buy a bag of oven chips and they have like 40 ingredients and none of them are good for you, and you can't pronounce half of them. So I started scanning everything I was eating with this app called Yuka, and it tells you, it kind of rates it like good, bad, excellent, and it also tells you what ingredients are bad and why. So I really cleaned up my diet, a lot more just fresh fruit and vegetables. The general, what you think of as healthy is kind of what I was doing, trying to reduce the packaged things. And I was already going to the gym but I wasn't necessarily doing so with much of a plan. So I got a personal trainer. I do 2 hours a week with him, and then I also go to the gym another couple of times, another 2 or 3 times a week on my own, as well as walking the dogs. So exercise became a very big part of my life. I've gained muscle, which is the coolest thing ever. I've been skinny before, but I've never been strong. And this one story is the one that always gets me. So I went to Costco by myself in the city, an appointment, and I went to Costco to pick up some dog food. We have 2 very big dogs who go through a lot of dog food, so we buy the big 40-pound bags from Costco. Normally, when I do that myself, when my husband's not there, I would struggle to get those bags into the cart and then from the cart into the car. However, this one time, after I'd been doing a lot more intensive work in the gym, I called my husband and I was like, you're not going to believe this, shrinkflation. They've kept the price of the dog food the same, but the bags are way lighter. There's not as much food in them. He was like, oh no way. I'm like, yeah, there's totally not as much food in here. I got the bags home and I compared it with the ones that were in the house, thinking that it was going to be smaller. No. The bags were the exact same. It's just that I wasn't struggling because I'd gained some muscle. How much of a win is that? I love that. So that's one big thing that I checked off my list. I got some strength. I cleaned up my diet so that I felt healthier, just generally felt better. And as a result of that, I have lost 30 pounds. I probably have more. Well, I do have more that I could lose, but for me, I feel a lot better. My aches, my pains, I was having joint problems, those have resolved. So that's a big win for this year of 75 hard, of eating really healthy and really putting in an effort to go to the gym very frequently. Another thing, like I said, exactly 1 year ago, I started this AuthorTube channel, and I've started little YouTube channels up in the past, but I've never been very good at being consistent. So this is the longest that I've ever had a channel, and I wanted to do at least 1 video a month. And then let me go to my YouTube studio real quick and see. So I have posted 17 videos in the last year, and I wanted to do at least 1 a month. I think there might have been a month or 2 where I didn't post a video, but other months where I posted multiple. So I think that all balances out, and I'm going to class that as a win. So yeah, within a year, posted all those videos. I did have another goal. My goal this year is to reach 100 subscribers. I'm at 81 subscribers at this point in time while I'm filming. So that is really cool. It's not too far off the target, and it's not something that was entirely within my control. So I am happy with that. The next thing is, when I first started my YouTube channel 1 year ago, I hadn't even plotted my book. Yeah, I think today the plan is to try and do some plotting. Got some up here. We have some of the breakdown that I've already written out. And there's a whole lot more to do. I had a dream, I had an idea, and since then I plotted the entire book, and I've almost finished my first draft. Right now I'm sitting at just over 75,000 words, and I'm in Act 3. I'm almost there. I think it will finish around 90,000, but that's just a guess. It might be a little bit more, might be a little bit less. From having a dream of writing a book to almost having a full draft of a manuscript. Like, I've started writing books in the past and I've never got this far, so I'm just so happy with all the effort that's gone in. I'm not one of those people who can do big writing sessions because I do have a lot of time restrictions, but almost every day I try and write something. And even just writing a couple hundred words a day has compounded into 75,000 words. To me, that's just insane. Not only do I almost have a completed first draft, I also have an editor booked. If you had asked me a year ago if I thought that that was even possible, that I would have an editor, like, that just feels insane. And not just any editor, you guys. I managed to book in with Shar from The Plottery. I'm super stoked to work with her. I think that she is the perfect person for my book because my book is set in Scotland and she lives in Scotland. So she understands, some of the cultural things and some of the language that I'll be using, but she's also not native to Scotland. So she'll also be able to sort of look at it with an eye of someone who hasn't always understood Scotland. So hopefully she'll help me get like this really good balance that will be great for Scottish readers as well as non-Scottish readers. Super excited about that. It feels like such a big achievement to have got to the point where I could even pre-book an editor. And she's so busy, you guys. Like, I'm so lucky. I just made it in before she closed her books for next year. She's fully booked. Oh, and I totally forgot to mention draft 2. Those revision rounds are from another writer friend that I made that I didn't, have when I first started this channel. And that was through Meredith E. Phillips' critique partner matchup spreadsheet thing. I met my critique partner this year, Courtney, and we have consistently been sending each other back and forth scenes and feeding back on them. So I have her feedback to help me with the second draft, and then the third draft will be based on Shar's feedback. Another thing that I wanted to do this year was to work on my writing craft, and to do that I did a 6-week writing course with StoryGrid. It's a scene writing workshop, so I did that, which gave me 5 rounds of feedback with a StoryGrid editor on like scene level stuff. It was separate to my novel, and that was really helpful. It was difficult, like I won't lie, and it's definitely something that, while I found it challenging, I think it has helped me be a better writer. Certainly I can look at some of my scenes in my book now and kind of formulate like an understanding of where they might not be working and how I can improve them in the next draft. So really excited about that. I've also been meeting up with some other people from the StoryGrid writing course, and each week we write a fresh little scene and we all kind of go over them according to the StoryGrid methodology, and we're just trying to all help each other grow and improve as writers. So more rounds of feedback there. Like I said before, one of the big things that I wanted to achieve in this last year was a community of writers. One of the big things for me with starting this channel is I'd really like to get to know a bunch of other writers, and that StoryGrid workshop has gave me a community of great StoryGrid writers that I talk to regularly. And I also went earlier this year to a writers conference in person. Now I live somewhere pretty rural, so I never dreamed I'd be able to go to a conference somewhere, but this wasn't in a big city, it was in a nearby town. It was driving distance, and I met a couple of other writers who are driving distance from me locally. So ever since then, we've been meeting up once every 2 weeks, and we read each other's scenes, give feedback, and that's just been such a big win. I have been reading craft books as well this year. I don't have them with me right now, but obviously I read the StoryGrid, What Good Editors Know by Sean Coyne. That one I did really enjoy. It gave me kind of like a really good way of understanding and reading scenes that I didn't have before. I've also, it's not really a book that you read start to finish, but The Emotional Thesaurus, I got one of those and I have like dipped in and out of it. I read Get Signed by Lucinda Halpern, and that book was so helpful to me just to really understand the process of trying to go the trad pub route and the sort of things that editors look for. So that was really interesting. I would definitely recommend that. I read The Emotional Craft of Fiction. Definitely something that I'm going to revisit in later drafts as well. I feel like that will definitely come in a lot more useful at that point for me. I also dipped my toes into The Anatomy of Genres by John Truby. For a little while I was pretty obsessed with trying to understand fully the genre of my novel, because it does kind of span a few different ones, and depending on the resource it kind of falls into different categories. So I think I've found peace with that now. Of course, right in the beginning, I read Save the Cat Writes a Novel, because I feel like every writer who is starting out for the first time does kind of have a rite of passage to read that book or one similar, and of course very helpful for trying to learn structure and for my initial plotting of my book. And then finally I read a book called Eats, Shoots and Leaves. It's a grammar book. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't making any stupid mistakes. It's by someone called Lynn Truss. I wouldn't recommend it. That one has some problematic things in it. It is an old book, and I think maybe some of those things were more socially acceptable when she said them than they are now. Just, yeah, some of the humour and stuff has not aged well. So it's not just craft books that I've been reading. I did also, as part of this year, want to make sure that I was reading every single day. And every single day I read something for fun. I have read, and they're not in my Goodreads because they're just like a bedtime story for me, but I've been reading, I think I've read 11 books in the J.D. Kirk series. It's like a Scottish-based detective novel. So that kind of just like feels like home, honestly. I think it was Ian Henderson that recommended that book. Thank you so much, Ian. I love them. I've also been trying to read a little bit more widely and definitely a lot more in my genre. So here is a list of some of the books that I've read. I haven't actually got a full count. So we've got 11 books by J.D. Kirk. I also read A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham, Swarm by Jennifer D. Lyle, Sleeping Beauties by Stephen King, The Troop by Nick Cutter, Ron Rash's The Cove. He is kind of a local author, I believe, to me, so that's cool. Augustina Basterica, I think I'm saying that right. Tender is the Flesh. Oof, I think one of my favourite novels that I've read this year was chef's kiss. No pun intended. I've also read Charlotte McConaughey's Wild Dark Shore and her book Once There Were Wolves. I definitely really aspire to be like Charlotte McConaughey as an author. I love how she brings in all of those ecological kind of aspects to her books, but she also has more than just like a plot. You know, there's real relationships and real characters in her books too. So love those. Another book that I loved was The Dead Take the A-Train by Cassandra Caw. I read that this year. James Patterson, The Zoo, which I think is a pretty good comp title for me. Not Alone by Sarah K. Jackson. So she's like a newer author from the UK as well, I believe. So loved reading that. Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. The Terraformers by Annalee Newitz. Eden by Tim LeBon. Don't know if I'm saying that right or not. My goodness, there has been a few. I do wonder how many there are. Fuzzy Mud by Louise Sachar. Ooh, Elantris. Read Elantris by, of course, Brandon Sanderson this year as well. Hidden Potential. The Science of Achieving Greater Things by Adam M. Grant. So that was one of the non-fiction ones that I read. Yeah, read every single day for the past year. Created an author website, got it to rank on Bing. I also discovered just Discord, joined that, and made a bunch of other author friends on there. Ooh, I also stepped way out of my comfort zone and read scenes at a local open mic storytellers night. But today I'd like to read a little short story, kind of like flash fiction size, and I've called it Did He Know Her? Which was very, very scary, but I'm really glad that I did it. So yeah, that is how much my life has changed in the past year. There are no words. You know, it's been really difficult at times. And I think that's something that I'm really glad that I proved to myself, that I can be consistent and I can do these things. I can't even begin to imagine what this next year is going to look like. I think the goal for me, and this video is going to be a great thing to check back on in a year from now, but the goal is to continue with the exercise, to continue with eating healthy, to continue reading every day and developing my craft. yeah, where do I want to be in a year? I want to be knee deep in draft 3 and really starting to have my story come together in a nice cohesive way, and by the end of next year, like by Christmas next year, to be finished draft 3. I don't know how realistic that is depending on the developmental feedback I get from Shar, but that would be really cool. I'd love to see that. Yeah, I'd love to go to another writers conference or writers retreat type thing. That would be so much fun. Yeah, I don't know what next year looks like. Give me some ideas, you guys. What else can I get up to next year to improve on things? But I think I will leave it here for now, guys, so I don't give myself too much to edit. If you know, you know. But yeah, that is the results of a year of basically living 75 hard without even realizing it. Thanks so much for being here. I'm going to continue with my SEO for authors mini-series following on from this video. With the timing, with it being a year since I started my channel, I had to interrupt that series to do this video. Thanks very much for being here. I love all of you guys that have been on this journey with me. All 81 of you are very, very appreciated. And hopefully this time next year, there'll be a few more to celebrate another year on YouTube with. Don't forget, if you are new here, to like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Take care.